Welcome to Your Mac Life for Wednesday, November the 11th, 2015. This is show number 1069. Thank you guys very much for joining me. I'm Shawn King.
I'm Kim Guy. I had to think about that. Have to think about it a lot these days. But yes, I am Kim Guy.
It is Remembrance Day, Veterans Day here in Canada and the U.S. I don't know if this date is this is a British thing too. You guys have
Remembrance Day. But we don't have the day off.
You don't have the day off. It's I think it's a British Commonwealth calls it Remembrance Day. Hopefully you've had some time to reflect. You've thought about this a little bit. That you have thought about your friends and family who may have been in the armed forces. This is the day that we remember those who have fallen in service of their country, not just our country, but other countries. Soldiers around the world are being sent off by usually old white guys to do things, and this is the day to remember their sacrifice. So I watched a little bit of the Remembrance Day ceremony from Capitol Hill, Parliament Hill here in Canada. Always my family's all military, all Navy. And so this day always meant a lot to me. It was always a somber day when I was a kid. I remember us going down to the cenotaph in Halifax and watching the old soldiers walk by, and we always had a poppy. It's an important day, and hopefully you had a chance to think on it a little bit. On tonight's show, we're going to be talking to our good friend Jim Dalrymple about the iPad Pro, which went on sale this morning. Are you getting one? Are you buying an iPad Pro? If you are you going to get the pencil and the keyboard, the whole kit? Let me know on air at yourmaclifeshow.com. I ain't getting one because they're expensive. It's about $1,200 here in Canada. And I can't justify spending that kind of money on it. I wish I could. I think I could really use the iPad Pro, but I ain't getting one. So I'm going to live vicariously through you guys who get them. So let me know if you're picking up your very own iPad Pro. Also, we're going to talk about exposure tools. There's this thing in photography called the exposure triangle, and it's shutter speed, aperture, and ISO. And I got a really neat tool I found online to give us a visual demonstration of that. We'll talk about that later on in our starting point photography segment. We're also going to talk to Kim about, she has a question about email that she has a question about email that maybe some of you geeks can help us out with. I think I know the answer, but I'd love to hear the opinions of folks who are smarter.
My technically minded friends,
yes, exactly.
Not my geeks.
Exactly.
Technically minded
Technically
friends.
minded. We'll talk about that later on. And we're also going to talk about why Kim, and some of you will be shocked about this. Some of you will be appalled. Many of you, like me, will be disappointed.
Tim Cook, apparently, is one of them.
Well, yeah, Tim Cook will definitely be. Why Kim bought a PC. Tim Cook said in an interview earlier in the week that he said, why would anyone buy a PC? And he said that, I thought, that's remarkably obtuse of you. I think it's a bit disingenuous. We'll talk about that with Kim later on.
That's a big word.
You need me to look it up for you?
Disingenuous?
Disingenuous.
Yeah.
Can you spell it?
Probably.
All right. But first, I want to talk about, this is the beginning, this is the preamble to the holiday season. After November 11th, things start to wrap up. And then once American Thanksgiving hits and Black Friday, boom, we are full on just racing toward
Tinsel.
Tinsel
town.
just going nuts for it. And that's fine. That's great. You know, we all have different relationships with the holidays. But this story has been blowing up over the last week, and it is utter insanity. Have you seen this? This brouhaha over Starbucks red cups. Have you seen this?
I saw it on Ellen.
Really? So Ellen's covering this?
No, Ellen, because she thinks it's a freaking joke.
It's
that everybody's getting their knickers in a twist over the fact that their cups are just red.
For those folks who aren't familiar with what we're talking about, if you go to Starbucks around this time of year, in previous years, Starbucks has had their red disposable cups. When you order a coffee or a latte or whatever it might be, they give it to you in a holiday cup. And in previous years, I never even noticed them before.
Snowflakes.
There'd be snowflakes. There'd be Christmassy scenes on it. There'd be stuff on it. But it's
There'd be holiday season scenes on it.
Exactly. Holiday season scenes. And this year, for whatever reason, Starbucks has gone with just a plain red cup. Now, one of the things is it may be because of price. They don't got to pay for printing this kind of stuff. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's not. But there's a certain portion of, and forgive me for saying it this way, Americans who have gotten all up in it, because every year we have to go through this bullshit about the war on Christmas. Oh, calling it the holiday season. And every year we go through this shit. And now this is what's happening this year. That this is suddenly, Starbucks is anti-Christmas. Donald Trump is telling people to boycott Starbucks. Now, there's a couple of reasons. There's a couple of things about that shows to me that Donald Trump is not fit to run the great nation that is America. One of it is not just getting why this is not a big deal, but secondly, that Donald Trump doesn't understand people can't boycott Starbucks. If you're a Starbucks junkie, you're addicted. You're never going to boycott Starbucks. Then maybe the casual person will go to Second Cup or Java Joe's. But the average person, if you like Starbucks, you're not going anywhere else for your coffee. People can't boycott Starbucks if they love Starbucks. Come on. It's just an idiotic, that the fact that you think that this offends Christians, that the idea that Starbucks making a red cup is somehow anti-Christmas. You know what? Even if it was, get over yourself. This is not that important. If you are complaining about this, congratulations. It means your life has no other problems. That your life is frickin' perfect if this is what's getting you up in arms. And unless you are the kind of person who is, someone said, going to soup kitchens, you can't bitch about this. This is just the most insane tempest in a teapot I've seen in a long time. Utterly ridiculous that this is something that has blown up on Twitter, on Ellen, on Monty. If you as a Christian are offended by a Starbucks cup, you're doing it wrong. You're doing Christianity wrong.
Mm-hmm. You're missing the whole point.
The whole point.
That's what I always say about all these people that get their high and mighty on things, and I'm like, really? And you're trying to tell me you have a relationship with God?
Yep.
I think you're missing the point of God.
It's to a certain degree it's kind of funny, but to a certain degree it's also such a testament to where we are in our society now. We're not in a good place. We're not in a good place at all. This should not matter. This makes no difference at all to your religion and how you practice it.
But
None.
That's the problem. It's a religion. It should be a faith.
Faith. Ooh. Wow, that's deep. What's the difference?
Huge.
I didn't ask how big the difference was. I asked what's the difference.
Because religion means you're defined by a certain structure that somebody else has written or prescribed, whereas faith it's all about you and him. That's it.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. For those folks who may not be familiar with it, last week, a couple weeks ago, Canada elected a new smoking hot prime minister, Justin Trudeau. And someone posted this on Facebook. I got it from Hiker BC. For once, Canadians are proud and even a little smug. No, we're always a little smug. In Canada, we have a Minister of Environment and Climate Change. We have a Minister of Immigration, Citizens, and Refugees. Our Prime Minister is a sci-fi geek. Our Minister of Health is an actual doctor. It's amazing that we have to actually say that and be surprised by the fact that the Minister of Health would be, in fact, a freaking doctor. Our Minister of Families, Children, and Social Development is a poverty economist. Our Minister of Science is an actual scientist and has won, and she has won a Nobel Prize. Our Minister of Status of Women is an actual woman.
Yeah.
Our Minister of Veterans Affairs is a quadriplegic because he was shot in a drive-by shooting. Our Minister of Employment, Workforce Development, and Labor is a professional geologist. Our Minister of Democratic Institutions is a Muslim refugee, an immigrant. Our Minister of Sport and Persons with Disabilities is, in fact, a disabled Paralympian athlete. Our Minister of Defense is, and this is the best one, a badass war hero, legitimate badass Muslim war hero, Afghanistan combat vet, and police officer. Our Minister of Transport is a goddamn astronaut. Half our ministers are women, half our ministers are men. 2 of our ministers are people of First Nations. 3 of our ministers were born outside of Canada. Again, immigrants. 2 of our ministers are Sikh. At least 1 of our ministers is Muslim. At least 2 of our ministers are atheists. Atheists. That would never happen in America.
Why?
Because Americans, and no one who listens to us right now, Americans cannot accept the fact that someone who would run or be in public office be an atheist. There are places in the U.S. where it's illegal to run for public office if you are an atheist.
Oh, wow. Okay.
1 of our ministers is, sadly, battling breast cancer. 1 of our ministers is in a wheelchair. 1 of our ministers is blind. 1 of our ministers is openly gay. And my favorite one of our ministers is openly ginger. And then, by the way, for those folks not familiar with that, ginger is a British term which means?
You're a redhead.
A redhead. Mm-hmm. A lot of folks, I didn't know what it meant originally. But
fiery.
but this is why, for the last couple of weeks, any of your Canadian friends on Facebook or Twitter have been extraordinarily proud. This may all blow up in her face. This may be Obama all over again. Obama is a very, very good president. I wouldn't call him great. I think he's a very, very good president. And Justin Trudeau may end up being just a good prime minister. But right now, in this honeymoon period, we feel the same way about Justin Trudeau.
Because it's change. It's new. Yeah. It's different. It's, it's like that. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing again and again and expecting a different result. Well, Canada's done something really different, and Trudeau has done something very different with his cabinet.
Yep.
So.
And it may not work out, but at least he's trying something different.
Yep.
That's good enough for me for the time being. Folks, later on the show, we're going to talk about exposure tools. We're going to talk to Kim about email and why she bought a PC. But up next, we're going to talk to our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop, of loopinsight.com, about his iPad Pro review. Yes, Jim got his hot little hands on an iPad Pro. We'll find out what he thought about it. All that and more coming up. This is Your Mac Life. Welcome back, folks. I am Shawn King, joined in our phone room now by our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. Mr. Dalrymple, how you doing today, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good. So you got your iPad Pro last week. You've been playing around with it for the last week or so. Your initial impressions on opening the, I'm sure, lovely hand-delivered box you got from Tim Cook. What was your initial impressions of the iPad Pro?
Well, it's obviously big.
Yes.
One thing that became clear very quickly, though, is that this isn't just a bigger iPad Pro.
Yeah.
Or a bigger iPad. You know, they didn't just say, "Oh, well, here's the iPad. Let's make a 12-inch version of the iPad."
Yeah.
It's not that. It's something completely different. It's something that's going to open up markets for Apple, and I think that's what people have to remember with this. There are going to be people that say, "Yeah, that's not for me," and that's okay. You know, I mean, it's not for everybody because of the size, but it's going to be for a lot more people than what, just bringing out a bigger iPad would have been.
It's interesting to see and read the reviews from all the usual suspects, yourself, John Gruber, Walt Mossberg, The Verge, all these guys, and seeing the different point of views that people have, which I think most of them are perfectly good, legitimate points of view. But one of the issues I've seen, and I think most surprisingly from Walt Mossberg, when Walt Mossberg said the iPad Pro is not going to replace your laptop, and that, to me, is surprising for someone who's been around as long as Mossberg has, for him to make that kind of blanket pronouncement that the iPad Pro is not going to replace your laptop for everybody. That's not true, is it?
Well, here's the thing. I haven't read any of the other reviews that are out there. I haven't talked to anybody that has had one. I just went on based on what I had.
Yes.
And to me, I did see Walt's headline of "It's not going to replace your laptop," and my first thought was, "That's not what it was meant to do." Yeah, so,
but hang on. You said that's not what it was meant to do, but Apple executives have gone on record as saying that's exactly what they think it's meant to do.
Well, I think that the position of iPad Pro is so much better than just a replacement for your laptop. I mean, the technology that's in there, allowing the pencil to work, and some of the things that they've done, and some of the things that third-party companies have done, is far beyond replacing your laptop. I think that's just so simplified. Can this replace what you do with another device? Sure, maybe it can, but I think it's bigger than that.
But yeah, I think, and I certainly agree with you. I think that blanket statement does such a disservice to Apple and the iPad Pro and to the market itself that because it's not right for me, therefore it can't be right for everybody. There are all kinds of use cases for the iPad Pro. You were talking about in your review about using it with Adobe products. I hadn't realized that you'd gone and actually sat down with Adobe. Tell me about that.
Oh, it was amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, see now the guy from Adobe was an engineer, product manager for Photoshop Mix and Comp and all of these things. And he had a drawing. Now, he's also an artist.
Yeah.
He's not just, a guy. He's an artist. He had a drawing of a girl that he just did, just did it with pencil.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. Amazing. I couldn't believe how good it was. And I said, did you really do that? And he did it while he was waiting.
Yeah.
For me, and it was outstanding. What he was able to do, and it had shading, and it had, like charcoal things, and it had lines, and it looked like a photograph. It was so good. So he said, yeah, I just, I was sitting waiting, and I drew this. Okay, I'm sold. Done.
I'll take two.
He didn't even have to do the demo.
Yeah.
But when he did the demo, it was even better because of how Adobe built the apps.
Yeah.
This is what we expect from Apple, and we got it from Adobe, and it was wonderful because you go into Photoshop Mix or Fix, and you fix a photo, and you do masking, you do compositing, you do all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's very simple. It's very easy. You've got the pencil, and you're doing all your stuff. Then you export that image, and when you import it into Photoshop in your Mac, it has all of the layers.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not importing a flat document that you did some things on your iPad Pro. You're importing this image where you have all the different layers there for you. So I think that's incredible myself.
I think something else. I don't think anyone else is really tweaking on is the fact that this is Adobe, and you've got to assume Adobe and Apple working very closely hand in hand for the previous X period of time on this. Adobe and Apple have had in the past an adversarial relationship. With when Steve Jobs was around, they hated each other in certain instances. It's interesting to see that Adobe could not have made this product that good if they didn't have backing from Apple, if they didn't have cooperation from Apple, if they didn't have access to the iPad Pro from Apple. Do you agree with that? Did you get that sense from the person you talked to at Adobe?
Well, of course. I mean, I think that just goes without saying that, you know, when you're making apps like Adobe made, you know, that's something that's pretty special. Those types of apps,
mm-hmm.
You know. So yeah, I mean, that's going to be a great thing. Those are the types of apps that Apple needs for iPad Pro. That's why I think that iPad Pro is more than just a replacement for your laptop.
Yeah. One of the things that struck me, and I think we knew about it going in, but it's sort of really brought home from your guys' reviews. This thing is an extraordinarily powerful computer, not iPad, not iPad mini, not iPad replacement. As a computer, did you notice that Gruber has mentioned it, Mossberg, everyone's mentioned it. Did you notice the power of the iPad Pro, or are you not pushing it to those kind of limits?
Oh, yeah, you just know that it's that powerful.
The line that I think Gruber used, which everyone seems to be picking up on, is that the entire x86 computer architecture is living on borrowed time. It's a dead platform walking. Do you think that we're eventually, at some time in, I guess, year, 2 years, going to see MacBooks running the same processor as an iPad Pro? Jim? Hey, I lose you, Jim? Damn it, that was a good question, too. I lost Jim. This is me trying to get Jim back. Hang on a second, folks. Jim? Call Jim. Call ended. Oh, that's stupid. All right, sorry, folks. Let me try to get Jim back. Hey. Oh, jeez. Got voicemail. Come on, Jim, hang up the phone so I can call you back. It's Wednesday. How can you tell? Hey, that's weird. We haven't had a drop in a long time. And I didn't touch anything. I have video evidence that I didn't touch anything or push any buttons. Hang on, folks. Going to get Jim back on the... I can prove via video that I did not touch the phone in order to hang up on Jim. So my apology. We just had a momentary drop. I don't know if you heard my question, but I will ask it again. Do you think that with the power of the iPad Pro, that some point in the next year, maybe 2 years, we're going to start seeing MacBooks run on that processor?
I don't know. I mean, we expect those things to do different things, you know? So I'm not sure what's going to happen in the next few years. I mean, in the next few years, are we going to be ready for a computer that basically is an iPad?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think clearly that's where we're going at some point. Microsoft is trying to get us there right now. I don't think that we're ready for it yet, but that's where we're probably going to head. I mean, you know, who knows where we'll be in 5 years? Look at where we've come in the last 5 years.
It does seem to make sense, and it kind of feels like this is where Apple's been going all along. As soon as they start designing their own chip, it was the first thing a lot of us thought. It was like, oh, if they're designing their own chip for the iPad, maybe eventually they'll design their own chip for the MacBooks and the iMacs and the Pros. But maybe it won't be a separate chip. Maybe we'll see at some point. And I think we will. I think inside 2 years, we're going to at least see a smaller, maybe a MacBook Air type machine running on that processor. And if that's the case, then we'll see as Apple makes inroads in the chip design, whether or not they'll be able to expand that through the entire line and therefore completely control their own destiny. Why this is important for a lot of folks who may not remember, back in the days of PowerPC, Apple was crippled because the folks who designed the PowerPC didn't have the same goals that Apple has and couldn't work as fast as Apple wanted. Same with Intel. There's been several models of MacBooks in particular that have been, if not delayed, then not been able to be released as fast because Apple is tied to Intel's roadmap for their chips and Intel's design for their chips. So those chips, maybe Apple wants a chip that's less powerful but gets insane battery life. Well, Intel doesn't care about that. Intel wants more power. So maybe this is Apple's another example, is the company has a history of controlling its destiny from soup to nuts. And so I wouldn't doubt that we're going to see at least MacBook, some version of the laptop with this processor in the future. Do you think that the iPad Pro, for lack of a better term, is not as good without the Apple keyboard or without the pencil? Give us your thoughts first on the keyboard and the pencil.
Keyboard is very interesting because it's molded, has a molded mechanism in it, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Because it's different than what we're used to. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. I like the keyboard, but I'm not sure that I'm a keyboard person. If that makes any.
But you write a lot though. You write a lot. You write a lot.
I do, and I've used the keyboard a lot, and yes, it's quite comfortable. What's interesting about the molded mechanism is that there's no like clickety click. You don't really have any of that. Because it is molded right into the plastic or the material that they're using for this. So I find that quite interesting.
I'm really looking forward to trying out that keyboard, because keyboards, I've always said, are very personal to each individual person. Everyone likes a different travel or the amount the keys move, like the different way the keys are curved. A keyboard is personal to everyone. So if someone says they don't like the keyboard, I'm okay with that, because we all like different keyboards. This one sounds, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds very, very thin. And those of us who use a traditional keyboard, it might take a little bit more getting used to, because there isn't that movement of your finger. But I think you would eventually get used to it. Maybe not after the week that you've been using it, but I think after a couple of weeks or a month.
There is some movement on the keyboard, actually.
Yep.
You're not just typing on like you were on the glass screen. It's not like that. There is some movement on the material that you're typing on.
Yeah.
I think for me it was more, when I sit down with my computer and I'm typing, I'll be moving my legs, I'll put a leg up and do. So with the iPad, you can't really do that.
Yeah.
Because then, the whole thing kind of screws up. And the other thing with iPad, if you're sitting at a table and you have the keyboard attached, the angle of writing is very good. However, I very rarely sit at a table and type. I usually sit in a chair with my feet up and my laptop on my lap, and I move the screen back and forth, depending whatever makes it comfortable. If I slide down some and get comfy, then I move the screen, and you can't really do that with iPad, just because of the way that it's in there. So, that's just one of the things that happens,
I think that was also my knock on any keyboard that's physically attached in that manner to the iPad or to any other device, is that you're now limited by that one angle. And if for whatever and if you're sitting at that angle, great. But if for whatever reason you want to lean back, you want to lean forward, you want to put a knee up, then that keyboard combination just doesn't work for you at all. So
Sure.
I don't see that as much of a real knock on it. It's something to be aware of, though. It's something to when you go looking at the iPad Pro, make sure that you can at least see the keyboard angle and see if it's something that you like. The thing that I'm really interested in, and in the reviews, both yours and the other ones, are people's comments about the pencil. The pencil seems to be blowing guys away. This seems to be the most amazing thing is the pencil.
Yeah, it really is amazing. I mean, you know, what you need to understand about the pencil, and I think the best analogy that I can give is if you've ever talked to somebody overseas and there's a delay in their voice and you end up talking over each other all the time, that's very annoying, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the same can be said for using a pencil or a pen or a stylus. If you touch the screen and go to draw something and nothing shows up, then you kind of start again, but then it shows up, you know, so you're writing over yourself all the time.
Yep.
If it's not instantaneous, then it's not going to be worthwhile.
Yep.
So the pencil is instantaneous. I'll admit I was surprised, but it was instantaneous.
Yep.
And the way that Apple did that is that they actually intelligently predict where you're going to go with the line.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're drawing a circle, they intelligently predict that you're drawing the circle, and they know based on, you know, where you are and where you're going to go, or where they think you're going to go. Not only that, they can predict the width of the line.
Mm.
So if your line is a bit thicker, by the time you get to the top of the circle, you'll notice it when you're drawing, but the iPad Pro will go back and backfill the line.
It's one of those things that I've used a bunch of styluses. I'm not an artist by any shape or form, but I have the Wacom tablets, Wacom tablets are the most common tablets before the iPad Pro or the iPad came out, and I'd use a bunch of styluses with those. And while it's kind of cool and kind of neat, every stylus has always been a pain in the ass over time, according to every designer or graphic artist I've spoken to, because of lag, because of lack of fine-tuning, because of the things that you were talking about with the pencil. I think it's really interesting that Apple's gotten this so right. And it's a testament to the fact that it's because Apple is the guy who makes the hardware, makes the software, makes the pencil, makes all of it.
Let me be clear about this backfilling thing. So you draw a circle, and iPad, between the iPad and the pencil, let's say you draw the circle. The iPad has gone back and backfilled where you have pressed harder, where you've pressed lighter. This is all done by the time you finish drawing the circle. There is no lag in that either.
No.
It is done so quickly you can't see it happen. So it's not like I'm going to draw a circle and at the very end I'm going to press harder and make it dark and then watch the iPad fill in that darker space.
Yeah.
No, by the time you're done, it's done. So it sounds like it's this big, lengthy process of we're going to predict where he goes. Oh, wait a minute, he changed. Oh, and he pressed harder. And there, okay, now we'll go backfill all this stuff. And hold on, we'll backfill. And there, now it's perfect. No, by the time you finish that line, it's also done backfilling. Astounding.
The comments that a lot of folks have been making, and this is completely typical. I predicted this last night. That you were going to read these anti-reviews of people saying that no, the iPad can't replace a laptop, let alone my laptop. Oh, it's too expensive. Oh, whatever it might be. And to a certain degree, some of those things are true. But I think our friend Ben Bajarin at techpinions.com said it best, and you sort of hinted at it at the beginning of the conversation, was that's the wrong way of looking at the iPad Pro, isn't it? The iPad Pro isn't a laptop replacement. It's its own device that will serve your needs in a different kind of way.
Well, and it's going to serve everybody's needs a little different.
Yeah.
You know, if you went out today and went to the Apple store and said, I think I'm going to go buy an iPad. I have $2,000, but I just want one iPad. That's it. You may go in and look at all three iPads and come up with a mini or an Air. You may come out with a Pro.
Yep.
But I may come out with something completely different with the same amount of money, no concerns. I'm just going to go in and buy whichever one I feel is going to be best for me.
Yep.
And everybody listening to this show, it could be a 30-30 split on which one we come out with. Somebody may just want it for airplane, just travel, and that's all they're going to do is travel with it. So an Air is probably best because it's got a nice big screen. You can watch movies. You can do whatever you want. Somebody else may want to walk around with it and have it. Okay, mini for you. And, I may want all the advancements, and I need two iPads side by side on this landscape screen. And I did love that, by the way.
Yeah.
Two full iPads side by side.
Yeah.
And that's what I may want. I may not even know how to use a pencil, but two iPads side by side, hell yes. So, what this is going to do, though, is if you're an artist or if you're a pro, there's no question which one you're going to get.
Sure, yeah.
And that opens up a whole new market for Apple.
But do you think that market's going to be big enough to even slightly offset the losses that the iPad market has experienced in the last 2-3 years?
So there's this company called Wacom that has made a business out of making tablets.
I think I've heard of them, yeah.
Yeah, and they seem to have done very well. So there is clearly a lot of room in the market for Apple to eat up some of that pie. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I don't think that Apple is going to cannibalize its own sales. I think that Apple is going to add to its sales.
Really?
Because it's opening up a market that they could never attract before.
No.
And if you look at all the tablets that Wacom has sold over the last, 5 years, those could be all iPads now.
Oh, I think they'll definitely be iPads now. I think the folks, and I'm surprised we haven't seen anyone get a comment from the folks at Wacom. Maybe they're not commenting, but they've got to be scared. They've got to be terrified because Wacom has this great thing called a Cintiq tablet monitor, and you draw on your monitor. But the knock on it has always been latency, and there's a gap between what you're drawing and the physical screen. It's not latency in sense of slowness, but it's you put your pencil down here or your pen down there, and it looks like the line's happening just a few millimeters to the left of it, and it's enough to make designers nuts. That doesn't happen with the iPad Pro.
Right. It does not happen, and I think that what I saw, and I'll go back to Adobe because that's what impressed me the most. Adobe Comp. You can comp up a page by using gestures.
Yeah.
Okay, you use a gesture and that's a text area. You use a gesture, that's an image area. And, you can comp all this up and then export it to Illustrator or InDesign or something like that. And again, it has layers. So this is something that, we can go to a meeting and we can comp up this page and say, okay, so this is what you mean, right? We did it on iPad Pro. This is what you mean. Yeah, okay. And then we take it back into our computers and we start using it again. Those people could never do that before. They would use paper,
Yeah.
or they would try and use iPad apps that weren't really made for that. Even drawing on notes and stuff like that. It's just, this is stuff that it's a market that Apple could not have attracted without the Pro.
Yeah. Let's talk about actual work, actual real live everyday work. Give us a sense of how you integrated the iPad Pro into your everyday writing, email, and audio life.
Hell, I said it a few minutes ago. 2 full-size iPads side by side.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't say any more than that. I mean, when I use my iPad for work, and I've said this a lot, I do research on my iPad, I surf, I do all kinds of stuff, and I would use the task manager, I would copy a link and say, yeah, this is going to be good for this story. Copy that link, go over to notes, paste it in, go back. I don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah.
I have 2 full iPads side by side. I just copy it on the same screen, go over, paste, done.
Yeah, because right now
Image
that process is a
over.
giant pain in the ass in the iPad.
Well, you know what? I didn't realize how much of a pain in the ass it was until I started using it. But I think I was so used to it, and at the end of the day, I want to put my computer down, and having that functionality of 2 screens is huge.
Yeah.
It's a lot bigger than what I thought. Now, you could do that with the regular iPad, but you're not talking about 2 full-size screens. Something on a regular iPad, when you do a split screen, something is going to give.
Yeah, sure.
And it's the size of the screen.
Yep.
It looks a little wonky. On this, it does not look wonky at all.
Yeah.
Because I will say it again, 2 full-size iPads side by side. Now, you want to know what really bothers me about iPad? And not just Pro. When you tilt the iPad, the volume buttons are backwards.
Say what?
You didn't notice that? Okay.
When you say tilt, what do you mean?
When you turn it from portrait to landscape.
Oh, okay. All right. So what do you mean they're backwards?
So stick with me here.
Okay.
So you have an iPad in portrait.
Yes.
And you're using it.
Yes.
Let's say you're listening to some music. Now, the buttons are on the top right-hand side of the iPad, right?
Correct. Yes.
Volume button.
Yes.
So if you want to turn the volume up,
Yes.
you hit the upper button. You want to turn the volume down, you hit the lower button.
Okay.
And on the screen, it shows the volume going down or going up.
Okay.
Now, take that iPad and turn it into landscape mode.
Okay.
Now, if you want to adjust the volume, if you want to go up, the buttons are now on the top
Yes.
of the iPad in landscape mode.
Yes.
If you want to put the volume up, you would press the right-hand side button, and the volume goes up. And if you want to put the volume down, you press the left-hand side button.
Really?
But listen, that's the way that it should work. Now, what happens is that let's say in portrait, the top button, when you turn it landscape, becomes the left-hand side button, which should be the volume down. So you go up and feel the buttons, and you press what you think is volume up in landscape mode, and it actually turns the volume down.
Oh,
Because if you rotate it,
Okay.
if you rotate it back, the volume up button, or what should be the volume up button, is actually in portrait the volume down button.
Oh.
That drives me insane. It drives me insane.
That's kind of a
Because
funny thing to complain about.
When I type, I use the landscape, and I have music on.
Yeah, sure.
So I want to turn the music down. So I hit the down button, except it goes up.
That's kind of an odd, very specific sort of. I never even noticed that before. It never crossed my mind that would be an issue, turning that from landscape to portrait for the volume. Speaking of sound, people have commented on the fact that it's now stereo sound, and interestingly enough, the speakers change based on the way you're holding the iPad. Did you notice that?
Good stuff.
That is fascinating to me. That there's bass and you've got stereo sound and bass and treble coming out of the speakers. Bass off the bottom of the iPad, treble off the top. But when you change the orientation of the iPad, the bass and treble change too. to me, that
everything about this thing is cool.
Exactly. I mean, to me, that is in a nutshell why, for me personally, I love Apple. That kind of attention to detail, the kind of thought that goes into it. I think it's also why we both get pissed off so much when they get things wrong, like your volume control issue, because they do so many other things so cleverly. Dave posted up on loopinsight.com this story about how and why Apple gets such great battery life. And everyone's commented on the 10, 11, 12-hour battery life you're going to get out of your iPad Pro. Even running it at full screen and just pushing it, you're going to get minimum 10 hours. Apple's doing this thing where when you're not touching the iPad, it lowers the hertz that it's projecting at the screen from 60 to 30 hertz. So in theory, using half as much energy. That's just freaking brilliant.
Yeah.
That's just mind-bogglingly brilliant that they would do that. And so it's just another example of the things that they do. It is coming up on the holiday season. Apple is going to have, as they always have, an incredible holiday season. Do you think you're going to see more iPads in general under the tree this quarter than we saw last year?
Yes.
You think Apple will just in general sell more iPads? Interesting. See, I obviously they're going to sell a lot of iPad Pros, but so what you're saying is you think the iPad Pro will recover the iPad sales market for Apple?
Well, I don't know that I would go quite that far, especially now.
Yeah.
What you're talking about now. I mean, you're saying this quarter Apple is going to recover. No.
Okay.
No, but I think what we'll see is either iPad sales will go up over what they were.
Yeah.
And that may not be sequentially, it may be yearly, and that's an important thing to remember.
Sure. Yep.
But I think what you'll start to see, and I hate to use this word, but a kind of a recovery of sales.
Yep.
Because we have seen iPad drop.
Yeah.
And clearly the iPads that they've been coming out with have held sales to a point, but they haven't spurred sales. I think that's what this is going to do. It's not going to do it all in one quarter.
Yeah, I agree.
So, will we see, the January quarter, and beyond start to pick up even more? Yes, and I think that's where it's going to start to come in.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think they'll recover from previous years, but I think it'll certainly stay because of the iPad Pro. I think Apple's market sales of the iPad in general will have bottomed out as of this quarter and then start increasing again. I don't know if it'll go gangbusters. I don't know if it will go back to the days of 5 years ago when they were selling a lot more. But I think this, if not save the iPad market, I think it's going to encourage folks to look at it again. Maybe they'll go in the store and they'll see the iPad Pro and then go, oh, okay, I don't need something that big, but this mini is really cool. I'll use that.
Right.
It's going to be interesting to see how this gets received by professionals. It's going to get perceived by people who can afford it, because it's definitely an expensive machine. Up here in Canada, it's $1,200 for an iPad Pro. I can't afford it. I'm not getting one. As much as I'd like to have one, I can't afford it. So it's going to be interesting to see whether, because I think that's the only thing stopping a lot more people from buying an iPad Pro, because it's so much more expensive. Not $50 more. It's $400 more than previous models.
Right. And okay, but now you need to take a look at who it's for.
Sure.
Those people are investing in their livelihood.
Yep.
$1,200, that's nothing.
Agreed. Yeah. Yeah, if you think that's the target market for the iPad Pro is professionals or creatives or enterprise, whoever it might be, then yes, I absolutely agree with you. But I think there's a significant market out there for the iPad Pro for obviously well-to-do, middle-class, upper-middle-class folks who want the more screen real estate, or they want to buy the best they can get. And there's no doubt that right now, at this moment, the iPad Pro is probably the best tablet they can get.
Yeah.
Folks, I'm talking to Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. He has his own two podcasts, which is why I'm always so honored that he shows up on mine. It's amplified on the iTunes Store and the Dalrymple Report. He was also on Mac Break Weekly early this week, but this is the first interview he's done after he's had his hands on the iPad Pro, so I'm honored that you did it with me. Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Shawn.
Talk to you soon, buddy. See ya.
Bye.
That was good. I'm really interested to see whether or not you folks are getting an iPad Pro. I think it's a no-brainer for a lot of people to, if you're a designer like Mo, if you are a photographer like me, if you are someone who wants to work in the field, whether that be, I heard from someone who said that they were getting an iPad Pro because they look at a lot of, they're an architect, and they look at a lot of blueprints on the job site. And right now, the iPad is good, but if you can get, as Jim said, 2 iPads side by side, that's even better. The thing is, and I really didn't conceptualize it until I saw it in the commercial. Apple ran a commercial last night about the iPad Pro. How freaking huge this thing is. You're looking at a 13-inch screen right now. That's how big the iPad Pro is.
That's cool.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I turned your mic down. Go ahead.
No, that is cool. I mean, that would make, why would you buy a laptop?
There's the question.
Yeah.
There's the question.
I know.
And we will smoothly segue to that. Tim Cook earlier in the week said he was in the UK being interviewed, and he said something along the lines of, because of the iPad Pro, why would anybody buy a PC nowadays? Mm-hmm. And maybe that was just marketing speak. Maybe that's just Tim doing the talking points of the marketing folks at Apple. But it feels a bit disingenuous for Tim Cook to say that as if he didn't know the answer already. Mm. And if you don't know the answer already, well, let me introduce you to Kim.
The answer.
Kim is average. No,
Yeah.
she's special. She's spectacular. But you are the average consumer.
Yes.
Of technology.
Definitely.
You like technology.
Yes.
You are not fascinated by it. Mm-mm. You use it when it works for you.
Yes.
You sadly left all this computer gear, all this stuff. You had an opportunity to use all this stuff, but no, you pissed it away.
Mm-hmm. No, I didn't piss it away. I just left it.
Just left it.
With you.
With me. And you decided that you need a computer because she has to look for work and she wants to check her email and you want to do
and that's the
stuff.
key.
Yes.
I have no longer a job.
Yes.
So no income.
Good point.
Okay. But I do need, like everybody, to apply for jobs and be able to do a resume, cover letter, email, blah, blah, blah,
Yep.
and send them off and apply and search the web for jobs, all this kind of stuff. So I needed a new computer.
So when you went looking for a new computer, did you even look at buying?
I did. I looked at them and I looked.
You went into Best Buy.
I did, and I looked at the price and I went, "Holy fuck!" And said, "Okay, what kind of laptop can I afford?"
PC laptop.
Yeah, because I wanted to buy something that was around $500, not much more.
And the lowest price here in Canada, remember we're using Canadian dollars, the lowest price laptop you can buy in Canada is maybe $1,000. MacBook.
Oh, Mac, yeah, yeah.
$1,000.
Yeah.
And
I would have got a Mac.
Yes.
If it met my price range, I would have got a Mac, but I couldn't afford one right now. So.
And that's why when Tim Cook says, why would anyone buy a PC?
Yeah.
That's why.
That's the only reason why. Because, like I said to you earlier, I've been there with my ex-husband. We were both earning good money, had lots of income. And when it came to buying things for the kids or for us, we would always go, we're not going to buy the cheapest or the middle range. What's the best? What's the best you can buy? Because we had the cash flow.
Yep.
And that's the thing. Yeah, if you've got the cash flow, you want to buy the best you can get for your money that's going to give you that longevity. And I agree. Stuff like Apple, because we always bought iPhones, iPads, iPods, everything for our kids. Always. Because we had the money. But the problem is, just like, when a mom on welfare, has to buy runners for her kids, people will say, Oh, but you buy the $10 ones from Walmart, but they'll run out in a month, and you'll need to buy another pair and another pair and another pair every month. Yeah, I know, but I don't have $60 or $100 right now to buy the decent pair that will last. I only have $10, so I have to buy the $10 ones. It's all about cash flow.
I've seen this happen here in Canada. We have Future Shops and now they're Best Buys, but I've seen it happen where it generally the husband, I'll be in the Mac section checking the computers out, and the husband is trying to talk to the wife. Honey, let's get one of these Apples, and the wife looks at the price tag and goes, "Yeah, but that's $1,000, and that compact is $300. Mm-hmm. We can get 3 of those compacts for one of these Macs. If your life is constrained by price point, by money, you literally cannot afford to buy a Macintosh. Yes, maybe you know that it's going to last 3 times as long as the PC. You'll have 3 times less stress and hassle with it. The problem is you ain't got $1,000. You got $300.
Yeah.
And you can't find another $1,000, another $700 anywhere else.
If you can find the extra money, push yourself. Like if you're financially in that situation, then absolutely, I will always. If I could have afforded to push myself to get an Apple product, I would have. But it was too big a gap.
MacMan says, except that $300 compact is going to be a pile of shit. Depending on what you're doing, but for the most part, the average person, for Kim is checking email. She's surfing the web. She's sending text messages to friends. She's looking at pictures of Grommy.
That's it.
That's it.
I don't even do that much.
And I'm sorry, but that $300 compact is perfectly good for that kind of low level computer use. She's not doing audio editing. She's not pushing it with spreadsheets. She's not running Office. She's not doing that kind of stuff. So for the average person, maybe they know that $300 compact is a piece of shit, but they're not going to push it to its limits. And it doesn't matter whether it's a piece of shit. They need a computer, and they can't afford a Macintosh. So for Tim Cook to say, why would anyone buy a PC, feels really dismissive. And it feels, I'm sure he's not like this.
No.
But it feels like this is just another old rich white guy saying, why don't the poor just work harder? What was it you said about food?
Food?
Why do the poor eat so poorly?
Oh, I know, because everybody says, you need to eat more healthy, because people that are poor tend to eat shitty food.
Yep.
But it's because shitty food is offered to us, everyone, cheaply.
Yep.
Very cheap.
Yep.
When you can go to fucking McDonald's and get, off the value menu, or whether that's Wendy's or McDonald's, or whatever, for $2.
Yeah.
Are you going to do it?
And it's fast and it's easy.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with this kind of technology stuff. It's the reason why a lot of folks, even if they know better, and Kim does know better, it doesn't matter. Tim Cook, it doesn't matter.
I've been on both ends.
Yeah.
I have been on both ends. I've been on fucking welfare, and I've had lots of money that I just blew. I've been on both ends in my life. I'm not stupid.
DH says, my kids are raised in cloth diapers. Did you put your kids in cloth diapers?
Yes.
Yeah,
I did.
really?
Real ones.
So it's still that generation is still doing it. I know my mom did, but I remember.
Many do.
Yeah.
It is a lot more work.
Oh yeah.
A lot of work. But yeah, I did.
Yeah. But anyway, so Mr. Cook, if you want to know why somebody bought a PC, send me an email and I will pass it on to Kim, or send her an email, kim@yourmaclifeshow.com, and she'll set you straight as to why she was literally forced to buy a Macintosh, a PC. And the other problem is Apple could make a $500 laptop if they wanted to.
But that's not the market they want to attract.
There's that, but there's also they want to make X numbers of dollars. Apple has a profit margin of about 35%. In other words, for lack of a better way to describe it, the sale price, 35% of it goes directly into Apple's pockets. Mm-hmm. So if Apple decided, you know what, let's make only 10% on the next laptop, or be like Dell and only make 5% on the next laptop, they could lower the price significantly. They choose not to. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. That's their choice. Like you said, they're going after a certain segment of the market. But for Tim Cook to say, well, why don't people buy – and the other thing is, why would you buy a PC over an iPad Pro? The iPad Pro is $1,200, dude. It's a lot of freaking money.
And I paid $530.
Yeah. Anyway, the next thing is you had a question. About email.
About email. Because I didn't know, or I don't know how. I've got an Apple, it's an Apple-based.
Me.com address.
A me.com email address. But I want to keep that email address, but use it somewhere else without having to buy, on my new laptop, Outlook.
Yep.
You know, you can get the trial version where it allows you to use that email address on Outlook, but then it says, oh, remember, at the end of November, you've got to buy Outlook. Well, I don't want to buy
The problem
Outlook.
is Kim, and this is the problem with
PCs. Yeah.
Kim accidentally installed Outlook, and now her email is going into Outlook, and now Outlook is saying, at the end of the month, you got to pay us. Well, you don't want to pay them.
No, but I still want to keep my email address.
You want to keep the me.com address. And I suggested, and someone I know will correct me, this is why we're talking about it, can she use google.com or gmail.com and route her me.com address through Gmail servers, gmail.com, so that when she sends an email address, it goes out from me.com. And when someone sends an email to Kim at me.com, it gets to her on her Gmail page or servers or website, whatever it might be. That's the thing. Yeah, there we go. Mosquito. Sounds like Gmail forwarding should work here.
They do that? Okay. And that's free?
MacMan, Gmail forwarding is free.
Okay.
Yeah. And MacMan says, get the free Windows Mail client. MacMan, could you tell us what the free Windows Mail client is? And I'll see if I can't help out. If anyone knows of the procedure to do that, use Gmail forwarding. Send an email to me because Kim won't understand it. No, that's not a knock. I'm sorry. I wasn't meaning that as a knock on you. Send it to me. I'll figure out how to do it, and then I'll help Kim figure this out. DJ McIntosh, look is still better than Lotus Notes, dude. Castration is better than Lotus Notes. That was the most evil program ever. I don't even want to talk about it. Let's move on. In our starting point photography segment, one of the things I teach in my class, my DSLR class, is the difference between what we call the exposure triangle of shutter speed, aperture, and ISO. So if you think of it literally as a triangle, one leg of the triangle is shutter speed, and you can adjust your shutter speed up and down, slower and faster. Shutter speed affects the motion in your shot. The higher shutter speed, the less motion in the shot. So if someone's running and you want to freeze frame them, use a very high shutter speed. If you want to capture fireworks, use a very slow shutter speed. Aperture is a measurement of how big the hole is that opens up in your camera lens. On the iPhone, aperture is set at 2.2. You can't change the aperture on the iPhone. But on some point and shoots on all DSLRs, there's an F number, and that F number, changing it, increases or decreases the size of the hole. Obviously, the bigger the hole, the more light that can come in. The smaller the hole, less light. And ISO, the bottom rung of the triangle, is, by the way, ISO doesn't stand for anything. It's the International Standards Organization, but it's just the initials of them. ISO is a measure of the light sensitivity. It formerly meant the light sensitivity of film. Those of you might remember buying film, the Kodak film for your mom or your dad's Instamatic, and it was ISO 100 or 200 or 400. That was a measure of the sensitivity to light of that film. Well, that's carried over from the days of film to now sensors. And what that means is that your sensor can be made more or less sensitive to light. If you're in a dark area, you increase the ISO, and your sensor of your camera, the brains of your camera, becomes more sensitive to light. Okay? So think of that. Shutter, aperture, and ISO. The problem is, it's difficult to conceptualize this unless you go out and shoot and practice shooting, which obviously I tell everyone to practice shooting. Unless you go out and practice shooting and practice the aperture, changing your aperture and seeing how it affects your photo, changing the shutter speed and seeing how it affects your photo, changing the ISO. I did that when I was a beginner. I literally sat down on the kitchen table with one of my Penguins, and I'd heard about this depth of field thing on aperture. When you change the aperture, it changes the depth of field. Well, what does that mean? So I took a picture at the lowest aperture my camera had, and then I took another picture with the next level up, and I just kept bumping it up. And when you look at the pictures, it becomes very obvious the relationship between aperture and how much of the thing you're looking at is in focus. That's called depth of field. Same with shutter speed. I went out to, this was in Connecticut, a busy highway, set my camera up next to the highway, did a shutter speed of the fastest that my camera could do, and took a picture of the cars going by. At 1/8,000th of a second, there was no blur in the picture. It looked like the car was parked in the spot. And as you move down the shutter speed, you make it slower, 1/4,000th, 1/2,000th, 1,000. You keep cutting it in half. You introduce more and more and more blur until you're taking pictures at 1/10th of a second, and everything is blurry. So here's a really neat online tool. The website, let me just can't really quick grab. The website is exposuretool.com. And what it does is it lets you play around with these sliders. I'll show this on screen. So you can see these sliders here on the left-hand side. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just click this to, let me get this.
Is it on the left-hand side to them or the
sorry,
right-hand side?
Right-hand side. Mm-hmm. And, of course, this thing is not going to cooperate. I want this to be smaller, but it's not going to do it. Come on, Apple. I can't grab the button. Oh, there we go.
You always blame Apple. Why do you do that?
Because it's their fault for not... never mind. Shut up. There we go. Aperture priority. So let's look at aperture priority. With a shutter speed of 1/1000th of a second, which is really, really fast, and the aperture of f1.8, and an aperture of f1.8 means that the opening of that camera is really as wide open as it possibly can be. That's very, very, so there's a lot of light coming in.
So the lower the number in the F number, the bigger the opening.
The bigger the opening. If you think of the F number as a fraction, that helps. Get rid of the F and make it a fraction. So F2 is actually not F.
Like a half.
F2 is actually 1/2. So it's open as half as much as it can be. F22 is 1/22nd, which means it's open 1/22nd as much as it can be. I do not know, I've never understood why photographers need to call this the F number, because that's so confusing. It seems counterintuitive that f1.8 is wider open than f22, because 22 is a bigger number. Anyway, so take a look at this picture, and as I change the aperture, looks what happens to the image, especially in the background of the image. You see, just changing it the background is coming into focus. You keep clicking this forward, and this is in what's called aperture priority mode. What that happens is you'll notice as I change the aperture, you see how the shutter and ISO speed change automatically. So with your camera, if you look at the top of your camera, you see that dial that has those little symbols on it. If you put it on aperture priority mode, you're telling the camera, I want to control the aperture, but you take care of everything else. So your camera will decide what shutter speed and ISO it should be. So keep this in mind as we look at this. So we'll increase the aperture a few stops, and you'll see how the background is becoming more and more in focus, and you'll notice the shutter speed is also slowing down, and the ISO is going up. Okay? And the background comes into focus. At aperture f1.8, you can't tell what the background is. You know there's a couple of lights there, but you can't really tell what the background is. At aperture f22, the background comes more into play. And if I increase the ISO, you'll see even more of the background come into play because I'm increasing the light sensitivity of the sensor. You switch that up and go the other way around, click on shutter priority mode, aperture will be changed by the computer, by the camera, ISO will be changed by the camera. So let's play around with the shutter speed. This is a shutter speed of 1:1 or 1 second shutter speed. Kim, what do you think will happen when I make the shutter speed faster? What will happen to the image? So if I go to 1/10 of a second or 1/100th of a second?
It'll get darker.
Okay, good, yes. Will anything else happen?
It may be more blurry.
Okay, all right. Let's take a look. As I go 1/16th, 1/30th, 1/60th, 1/25. It doesn't get more blurry. It gets less blurry because the shutter speed is faster. It captures the motion.
Faster.
The shutter speed is getting faster, so it stops motion.
Ah, right.
Okay, you got that?
Yeah.
Understood?
Yeah.
But you'll also notice how the picture quality went to hell.
Mm-hmm. Very grainy.
Very grainy. That's because look at the ISO, 25,000.
That's dragging the light in there.
This is the danger of increasing the ISO.
Right.
This is the problem when you need to get the shot. It's
dark.
a dark shot, but you need to get the shot, so you increase your ISO. The danger is you get this kind of grain or noise.
Right.
As I say in the class, if you like it, it's called grain. If you don't like it, it's called noise. This is noise. It makes an ugly picture. So play around with this. ExposureTools.com. It's really kind of a neat thing. And now if we go to the manual mode where I can change everything on the camera, and this is the same sort of, come on, why want the button? Come on. It's not being nice. Did I click on manual mode? It's not working. All right, let me refresh the page. ExposureTools.com is the website. And use this as a tool. Do not exclusively do this. Get this in your head as to how this works, but then go out and do this yourself. Set your camera into shutter priority mode. Set your camera in aperture priority mode. Take 75 pictures. See how it changes with your photography. So here's an example. I'm in full manual mode now. Kim, what is wrong with this picture?
Oh, too much light.
Too much light?
Yeah.
Okay, let's solve one problem at a time.
Yep.
There's too much light. How do I decrease the light?
Change the aperture.
Very good. Not a clever girl. Exactly. So if we make the aperture hole smaller.
It'll let less light in.
Exactly.
Yes.
So now, look, we're getting a better picture.
Mm-hmm.
So right
there. About there.
Probably be the best images. We still have a nice blurry background.
Yeah.
But now we've got a decent shot.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go back to that. Now what I want to do is I want to get the shot in focus. I want to have this as a pinwheel. Right now it's blurry. I don't know what that
right,
blur
because
is.
it's a pinwheel. It's moving fast, which means the shutter speed isn't fast enough to capture the picture.
Bingo. Exactly. So this is what happens when you take a picture, and this is why your knowledge helps you. You can take a picture, and I do this all the time. I'll take a picture, like a test shot, and look at it and go, oh, that's what's wrong. Here's how to fix it. Rather than just going, oh, okay, and walking away, learn how to look at a bad picture and figure out why is it a bad picture and what do I got to do to fix the picture. Kim, you've seen me dozens of times. I'll take a picture, and then I'm standing there for like 10 seconds going, and I take the picture because I'm figuring out why that image didn't work out. So let's just test Kim's hypothesis. We want this picture to be less blurry, so we're going to increase the shutter speed. And now
it's too dark.
It's too dark. So how do I fix that?
ISO.
There you go. Because our aperture is already as open as it could possibly be.
Yeah.
We can't make this aperture any
we
better.
We need a better light sensitive.
Exactly. So now we do that.
Exposure.
Oh, it's getting better. It's still blurry. I increase the shutter speed. Come on. I don't know why this page is just. You see how the page is just frozen up on me?
Yeah.
But anyway, you get the idea. You get the gist of it.
You get the gist.
Play around with it. That's really annoying. Why is the page doing that?
You're doing too many clicks at the same time.
I'm not. See, it's reacting up here instantly, so it should react down there at the same time. But it's not. So anyway, ExposureTools.com is the website. Check it out. Play around with it. Have it help you get a better understanding of what happens when you mess around with these things. But then take your camera, go outside, practice this. Inside, aperture priority, it's easy. Like I said, just take an object on your kitchen table and put it in front of your camera, and then you've got something in the background that's kind of blurry. And then take a picture with each one of the aperture stops. And then bring them into your camera, bring them into your laptop, and look at them sequentially. And you go, oh, okay, this is what happens at F1, F2, F4, F6, that kind of stuff. And once you practice these sort of things, it becomes second nature. The thing that we talk about in the class all the time is think about your images. And what I try to do is pre-visualize the images. I'll look at a scene and think, okay, this is the way I want this image to come out. So what do I need to do to my camera to copy my mind's eye? I want this to be a little darker, or I want this to be really, really sharp, or I want to have some blur in it, whatever it might be. Then I use the knowledge of aperture and shutter priority and ISO to dial in those kinds of settings. It's a lot of fun to today. It's very creative. But it takes work. It takes thinking, and it takes a lot of practice. So you got to make sure you do both of those things. We covered your email issue. Did folks send you the email?
Yes, they did. Thank you.
Okay, good.
Got tips.
Oh, Apple.com iCloud setup PC. There we go. Okay, so we can
Try that one.
What I'll do is you don't got to try it. I'll look it up and figure it out for you. Anyone say anything else? Monty, you want to do the same kind of test at home with your camera and lens? A great prop is a yardstick. Oh, brilliant. Brilliant, Monty. Shot at a slight angle, the number on the stick that's in focus will change as your depth of field changes. That's very clever.
Just a measuring tape.
I'll have to try. I'm going to steal that, Monty, because he's right. You'll see where the focus is on the measuring, because the numbers on the measuring stick will be less or more in focus. That's very cool. Mosquito says grain used to be how you could tell an old movie was about to lap dissolve between scenes. Exactly. Slow dissolve between scenes. MacMan says, I love how my D7100 can handle high ISO so much better than my D90. No way could I have gotten this shot of the moon during the eclipse. Cameras are always getting better with ISO. Every single generation of cameras gets better and better and better with ISO. The Nikon D3S I used at Macworld 7 years ago, had an ISO of 12,600, which is just incredible. Not anymore. Little point and shoots can do that now. But what I always tell folks is find out what the maximum aperture of your camera is, cut that number in half, and that's your what's called effective useful aperture. Manufacturers have pushed aperture to the insane limit because it's computer-based now. It's not film-based and chemistry-based. It's now just more computational power. There is a Sony, I can't remember the Sony, but there's a Sony camera out there that's got an ISO of 500,000, which sounds really, really cool until you take a picture of it. The picture's crap. It's a shitty picture. It's just full of noise. Sure, you can see what the guy was shooting, but it's a crappy photo. So don't take those numbers as gospel. What you want to do is you want to cut the number in half. So find out what your maximum is in your manual or open up the ISO settings in your camera, crank it all the way up, and then remember to yourself, okay, my good, useful, usable ISO is going to be half of whatever that number is. Don't forget, Monty reminds me, we're giving away an Apple TV. I forgot to mention this off the top of the show. One of our Secret Santas, thank you very much, Secret Santa, yay, is giving away a top-of-the-line 64-gigabyte Apple TV. We're going to do the drawing on the first show in December. You can sign up, you can, no purchase necessary is the word I was looking for. You can go to the website, yourmaclifeshow.com, at the very top of the page. You can see the Friends of YML entry form. Fill out that entry form with a legitimate email address. It sends the email to me. I drop your name into a virtual hat, and then on the first show in December, we'll do a drawing, and some lucky person will get their very own Christmas present from our Secret Santa. I prefer, this is just me, I prefer if you go to the website and on the left-hand side, subscribe to Your Mac Life. Yeah, it's a free podcast, but if you subscribe for $2, $5, $10, $15, whatever it is, a month you want to do, it comes out of your PayPal account or your major credit card, I'll do all the work for you. All you can do is subscribe once, and I will put your entry form into our virtual hat every single month without fail, without any problem at all, without any complaint. I will send prayers off to you and your children if you subscribe to Your Mac Life. I probably won't do that. That's probably me being full of crap. So ignore that. Let's do some emails from you folks. As always, you can send us emails during the show. Our email address during the show is onair@yourmaclifeshow.com. Our friend Scott Randall, Long Island Macintosh User Group, one listener asked about cleaning screens. The best and safest way to clean all of your screens, Mac and iOS, is to use a microfiber cloth, one of these things. You get them in any eyeglass store. You can get them at Best Buy. You can get them all over the place. And Apple's Eye Clear. Is it Apple's Eye Clear? I thought it was a different company. On iPhones and iPads, the cloth is many times enough. Yeah, it's always the cloth for me. Every now and then I'll see smooch on my...
Is it okay to huh on them?
Yes.
You can huh on your screen.
As long as there's no phlegm. Because that sounded kind of phlegmy. Yeah, you can just basically treat your...
I don't huh on the cloth. I huh on the screen.
Treat your screen the same way you do your glasses.
Yeah.
You know, you can use the same products on your screen that you can use on your glasses. Mosquito points out clearscreen.com is iClear. So it's not Scott, it's not Apple's iClear. The company is called Clear Screen. First of all, he says, I have to completely agree with Brian Monroe and disagree. This is an older email that he wanted me to read. Disagree with you and Jim about including an SSD or flash storage on all Macintoshes. In this day and age, there's no excuse for a relatively expensive computer to come with a 5400 RPM laptop-size hard drive. But let's focus just on the new 4K iMac that's $1,500. Everything else in that computer is modern and high quality. Anyone who'd want a Retina screen would also want an SSD. The spinning hard drive they include probably cost about $10. A 256 gigabyte SSD can be bought for about $100. It would cost Apple much less due to their buying power. At $1,500, the 4K iMac should come with a 256 gigabyte flash storage drive. Now, I am with Jim that it says the specs are not that important, but you just said they were, dude. You're contradicting yourself. As long as you can do what I need and with no lag, I am happy. Possibly. The problem is you have a certain expectation and knowledge of what's possible. People who've never used an SSD drive don't, so they don't know what they're missing. And I agree with you guys. I believe that Apple should be doing that. But Apple should also be, in my opinion, lowering the price of these devices so people like Kim can buy them. So Apple's doing this. You know, the only reason Apple is putting 5400 RPM physical hard drives in the iMac is to make money. You just pointed out the hard drive is $10 versus $100. That's the difference of $90. No, it's not that much money. Except when you sell 5 million Macintoshes a year or a quarter, maybe you sell 500,000 iMacs with a spinning hard drive. Someone do the math. What's 500,000 times 90? It's a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So, he says the average person will notice a lack of access speed more than anything else. I don't think they will. When Kim was using my MacBook Pro, and then she switched over to the MacBook Air, you didn't think that things were slower or faster or anything.
Nope.
Because you didn't know. You didn't care. You weren't doing anything.
It all worked great.
It all worked great. You weren't doing anything that required the processor.
And I didn't have any predetermined expectations of what it should do.
Part of the problem that we have, and we have to constantly remind ourselves of this, is that your what we said at the top of the show, your perceptions, your knowledge informs what you're going to say about it. So, yeah, you want a fast SSD drive. I want a fast SSD drive. But
I
Kim
don't give a shit.
doesn't even know what an SSD drive is. And it, frankly, would not make a difference.
No.
Because the kind of stuff that you do, an SSD drive would not make a difference. Now, again, Apple should, yes, put them in there. But I understand why they're not. Second, if you have time, Kim, this is for you. All right? So you read it.
What?
Oh, sorry. You are adorable and funny.
That's to me?
Yeah. Should I stop there?
Yeah, that's it. We're good. Okay, and end of show.
Thank you very much for joining us. You're adorable and funny, but your argument with Shawn over manual versus automatic is an absolute straw Mac argument, he said. It had no relation to what he was talking about. Also, what you said was completely erroneous and scientifically incorrect, but you are still adorable and funny. All right, so keep that in mind. Less than 4% of cars purchased in the U.S. are manual transmission. That's true. Very,
because you can't drive. Yeah, hello.
Do you think all the rest of those people are bad drivers?
Yeah. Yeah. You can't convince me otherwise.
So you're saying
Yep.
you think 96% of the cars on the road in North America are driven by bad drivers?
Because they only know how to drive automatics? Yes.
Okay. Just because you think something does not make it true, you need data. Today's automatic transmissions are far superior to any manual transmission. No.
Transmissions, maybe the way they mechanically
Yeah,
work and
yeah.
engineered, absolutely, sure, they're awesome. Like that's why most heavy-duty trucks have gone to automatic transmissions
Really?
these days, which is very weird.
I didn't
'cause
know that.
I only drove like manual transmission in a truck.
Wait. You mean like 18-wheelers?
Yes,
Automatics?
you can get automatic.
I
now.
did not know that.
Or semi-automatic or automatic. Yeah,
Huh.
you can. But I still stand behind the fact that it's not the gear shifting in the car. You still have to know what happens when a vehicle hits a curve at a certain speed, or you got more control in a manual.
I have taught physics for years and can tell you dropping to a lower gear or applying the brake makes no difference.
Applying the brake is not good. It does make a fucking difference. I don't care what physics you know.
Good drivers have to be aware of the surroundings and slow down way before a dangerous curve. It's common sense.
Yes.
Factors that keep a car on the road when going around a curve are the speed,
Yes.
radius,
Yes.
mass, and tires or friction.
Traction.
Traction. Yeah, traction.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I know all that. Hello.
Don Beck in Chilmark, Massachusetts. I was just listening to last week's show in the car when you were talking about a standard versus automatic transmission. This is really hit home for folks. This is really
Because
interesting.
we're drivers, yes.
When I got my driver's license in the mid-50s, similar to what Kim says Europe is now, you had to take your driving test on a standard shift car if you wanted to be licensed to drive a standard shift car.
Yeah.
And you could then drive an automatic.
Yes.
If you tested on an automatic, you were restricted to
restricted.
driving an automatic.
Correct.
Okay. Half a year ago, I was shopping for a used car. After looking at one and not particularly liking it, the dealer said, well, I also have a personal one I haven't put on the market. Sounds like what you're looking for, except it has a standard shift.
Yes.
My heart jumped for joy, he said. I haven't been able to buy a standard shift car since I've been forced to buy used cars many years ago.
Yes.
Anyway, I'm now the happy owner of a 2005 Honda Accord with standard shift.
Nice.
It took me about 5 minutes for shifting to become second nature to me, and I love it.
Driver's car.
Good thing my driver's license allows me to drive standard. By the way, about a minute before getting home, I stopped listening to your podcast. It was your fault, Shawn. You said, hey, Siri, and my phone quickly stopped talking and asked me how she could help me. That's hilarious. I have no doubt, and I completely agree with you from the point of view of, in my opinion, driving a manual transmission is more fun than driving an automatic. That's why I ride a motorcycle. That's why I
driving.
Because that to me is driving. But it's not for everyone. And I also agree with you that people should have to learn how to drive manual.
Yeah.
It should be in that whatever class
I got
it
nothing
is.
against automatic transmissions and driving an automatic vehicle. I've driven lots of them. But I think everyone should learn to drive standard and know what it feels like, what's involved,
Yep.
how the vehicle
Yep.
reacts.
I don't disagree.
Yep.
I don't disagree on that. Okay. So maybe we can move on now.
Maybe.
Would anyone be able to tell us, Faye Kelly, could you tell me why everything I buy in iTunes, like an app or a song, is always taking more money out of my account than is listed for the price? An app is listed for $4.99. I pay $5.30. Apple TV program is listed for something, and I end up paying more every time.
Is it exchange rates? Is he in a different country? Or?
Sales tax. The store doesn't include the sales tax. So the thing looks like it's 99 cents, and you click buy, and then when you get the bill, it's $1.03 or $4.95.
Because you live wherever you live and there's sales tax applicable.
Yeah, that's the problem. But why do people have to get confused by this? Why can't Apple just say, we're going to add sales tax? You know, when you click
tax.
plus tax.
Plus applicable
Plus
taxes.
applicable taxes.
Yeah.
Exactly. This is one of those things that changes, and it's annoying as hell. How can I get letters to continuously type when I hold down the key on my MacBook Pro?
Well, they don't normally? Like if
Go
you
ahead.
just hold it down, it won't go.
Go ahead.
La, 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 la.
Go ahead.
Oh. That does on a PC.
It does. It used to on the Macintosh.
Oh,
And then for no apparent frickin' reason,
never noticed that before.
because you rarely need to type a bunch of E's. That's why you never noticed it before. And also, it's also just hitting E 17 times is just as easy.
Yeah, having said that, who really needs like a million L's or E's or F's or whatever? F's maybe.
This is an example of Apple making. This is an example of Apple making a change, not telling the user they're making the change, and the user seeing something change have no clue how or why it changed. You think your machine's broken.
Oh, yeah, that's a bit.
Something's
naughty.
gone wrong.
Yeah.
This is the way I want my computer to run.
Well, that's the way your computers used to run,
Yep.
and you have this certain expectation, and then you go to use it, and you go, "Oh, is it broken?"
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. iTunes is a perfect example. There was a version of iTunes before this one. When you selected a song in iTunes and hit Command R, it would find it on the hard drive and bring it to the front. It would show you a Finder window where that thing was. Mm-hmm. Download a new version of iTunes. I think it was iTunes 5 or 6, whatever it was. And I hit Command R, nothing happens. Command R. Oh, this is broken. Jesus Christ. It turned out Apple changed that key command to Option Command R. Why?
Oh, okay.
Why did you change that without telling me that I changed that?
Yeah.
So anyway, what you want to do for the repeat is you go to your system preferences, and you can do this along with me. Go to system preferences in the upper left-hand corner.
Okay. I don't know. No, I'm not going to because I just fuck shit up. No, I'm not.
And there
touching it.
is a system preference called keyboard, and you click on that, and there is a key repeat thing that you can turn on, and it will repeat the keys for you.
Okay.
It's so frustrating because if the nerds figure this stuff out, geeks figure this stuff out, but the average user who may, for whatever reason, had held the E key down and seen a bunch of E's go across the screen, something that doesn't happen, you think something's broken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Apple don't do that without informing the user. If you could, the first time they held down multiple keys, a little window could pop up and say, "Oh, we're sorry, we changed this."
There's no small print somewhere.
Nope.
I bet you Apple do say, "Hey, blah blah
Nope.
blah, we upgraded
Nope.
this, and this will happen."
Nope.
No.
Nope.
Okay.
Really, really annoying. Incredibly annoying. Beat your head against the table. Annoying. Jason Painter. No, hang on. This is a long one. Oh, sorry, Jason. We're out of time. I'm going to read your but I will get to your one about security questions. To contribute to the discussion, I go further with security questions. Remember last week we were talking about security? I choose a random question from the list presented, then answer it with a random 50-character string generated by 1Password. I document all the questions and answers in the record for the site in 1Password. My thinking is that if I'm not going to answer truthfully, I'm going to be prone to forgetting my answers.
Yeah, exactly.
So I might as well go all the way and answer with complete nonsense. No one has a hope of guessing my answers. So what he's
But how does he remember?
Exactly.
Oh, he doesn't have to because 1Password
That's
do
right.
because they're awesome.
rather than writing it down on a piece of paper,
Yes.
putting it underneath your desk,
Yeah.
on a stick-it note, he's writing it down on the computer, but then hiding it also in 1Password.
Yeah.
And then when he closes 1Password, it's locked tight.
Yeah.
No one's getting that. So that's how he's doing it. So
Yeah.
you have 1Password available for Windows. If you wanted to do that, you could do that with 1Password. For if you have those concerns about safety and security.
I don't because mine's like everybody knows everything. What's there? It's not like I have a bank account that anybody can access and get anything out of.
If you want to steal the $5 in my account, go ahead.
$5?
Yeah, go ahead. Woohoo!
$5
I'm
in
rich.
there?
I'm rich. This is it. Or we're done, folks. If you're going to get an iPad Pro, let me know. Send me a picture from your unboxing or your store. What?
It was big. It's a big screen.
It is. It's a very, very large. I'm dying to go to the store and actually see how it feels. Send pictures if you'd like. We'll put them up on the show on next week's show. I want to say thanks as always to our good friend Jim Dalrymple from the Loop at loopinsight.com. And also to you guys, the audience, whether you're listening in live or whether you tuned in via the archive. Appreciate you guys being tuned in to the show. As always, until next week, I've been Shawn King.
And I'm always Kim Guy.
You're a little slow on that one. I don't understand why. Thanks very much for joining us, folks. See ya!